Hi, my name is Ben Lafontaine, and I am, hopefully, I'm your kid's AP US history teacher. Um, what I'm going to try and do over the next 10 minutes or so is give you an idea about who I am and what this course looks like and what we're doing. To help out, I've got a screen. I think it's that way. It might be that way, but I'll probably reference it that way. Right now in front of you is a slide that looks a lot like the slide that your kids see. Um, every day when your kids log on, they'll see something like a little message from me about what they need to do. It'll be a reminder to turn their camera on, to make sure that they're muted, to have out certain materials, or to answer a question. And sometimes it's very academic, and other times it's something that's like I asked the other day what their favorite book was when they were a little kid, and we got a chance to talk about that a bit. Once we get through the sort of initial getting everybody logged in and everybody on screen, we move into sort of what we're going to do that day. And this gives kids an idea, both of the agenda, the sort of like, these are the things we're going to do, but also what do I hope they can do or are able to explain or understand or identify, whatever it might be, when they walk out the door. Figuratively right now, but at some point literally, right? So the first thing we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about who I am. I spend 75 minutes with your kids on Tuesdays, starting at about 12:10. Another 75 on Thursdays, and then I see them every Monday, pretty early in the morning, right? About 9:30. So my name's Ben LaFontaine. I grew up in Glen Ellen. I graduated from Glenbard West High School, class of '92. And went to Valparaiso University for my undergrad and UIC for my graduate degree. For 7 years, I taught at Morton West in Berwyn, and then for the last 16 years, I think this is my 16th year, I've been at LT. While here, I've taught a variety of courses, civics, American studies, but AP has been the constant throughout. And so this is my 17th year teaching AP. It's my 16th year teaching it here at LT. So in terms of the course itself or the class more broadly, one of the things that I tried to establish very early on with your kids is that I operate with the understanding that they are human beings. And if they understand that I'm a human being and we sort of approach one another that way, that everything is probably going to work out. And that's especially important in the junior year. Junior year is tough, right? If you have older kids, there's just a lot of pressure. College is all of a sudden real. ACT, SAT, myriad AP courses, and all sorts of other acronyms, right, are flying at them. And suddenly, college is a very real thing, and especially for kids at LT, it can be challenging because there's that transition from South Campus to North Campus. And while I know that your kids haven't had quite that same experience, they certainly will at some point, and hopefully in the near future, right? The class itself is following the model established by the College Board, which sets up nine periods of history, dating from sort of pre-colonial history, so sort of pre-1492, all the way up through and including hopefully the present day. Every unit, they have 2 or 3 chapters in the textbook. Unit 1 was just 1 chapter. Unit 2 will be 2 chapters, but from here on out, it'll be 3 pretty typically. You should be seeing your kids reading a lot. There's a fair amount of writing that they will be needing to do. Each unit culminates in assessments that are based on the model, again, established by the College Board. As I've told your kids, one of the things about the course is there's sort of two paths that we travel. One is to teach them U.S. history, right? To know where we've been and hopefully where we are, and in turn perhaps where we're going, but also to help prepare them for this test, right? This big test that comes up in May, because for some kids, the reason why they take AP U.S. history is because they love U.S. history. But there are others who take it because they really don't like it and don't ever want to have to deal with it again. So that's really kind of the 2 paths that we walk together. There's a calendar that looks very much like this one, that is on Canvas, and then in turn through that I link to Google. So it's kind of constantly being updated as things change. But I really do try and hold fast to things like how many chapters they're reading, the homework that they'll be having. And if I do make changes, I try and let the kids know that well in advance, right? Because of the remote learning model, the expectation on them is a little bit is a little bit trickier because we're not seeing one another every day, and so there's a little bit more onus on them, to be responsible for their learning. As a parent, to a eighth grader, and as a parent to a fourth grader, one of the things that I'm sort of constantly dealing with is how do I help my kid, right? How do I help my eighth grader? And just yesterday I realized that maybe with math he's going to need to find somebody else, because I think that this is about when math and I parted company. But I really do want to impart to you that there are ways that you can help your students. One of them is to remind them that what they've always done to succeed may not work for them, and that's especially true this year. But that's really challenging, because I remember myself feeling like I really had things well in hand in high school, and then all of a sudden my old methods just didn't work anymore, and I had to recalibrate and figure out how I'm going to do things. Encouraging them to advocate for themselves, whether it be in class talking to me, either literally verbalizing or through chat, an email sent before school or after school, or sometimes in the middle of the day, but letting me know what they need. Every year I have students who get really upset, who get really overwhelmed, and end up crying, right? Every year I've had students before school, after school, middle of the day, who come by to talk to me, and through the course of our conversation they end up crying, because it's just so overwhelming. And every year I vow to not have that happen, because I mean, that's not what school is supposed to be about, right? School is supposed to be about learning and building relationships, and building an understanding of the world that we live in, and it's about growth. And so hopefully we can avoid that kind of stress and strain for your kids. The third thing is about working with other students. I think too often that's perceived as cheating. It's not cheating. You know, if kids are willing to work together, building Quizlets, building Google Docs to help review, even things like working on vocabulary together, those are all totally appropriate things. And your kids and I have had very clear conversations about what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, right? I mean, people cheat, right? But I think the idea of working with someone inherently meaning that you're cheating is absolutely not the case. And then the last piece is about the internet. There are so many resources out there. The AP Classroom, which they've all registered for at this point, has just a ton of stuff that they can use to help them process this material, to practice these different things. And every year there are kids who find new stuff that I've never heard about before. There are YouTube videos from a guy called Adam Norris that are extraordinary. And he covers entire chapters of the book in 10 to 15 minutes. John Green is somebody that I use a lot, just so that kids have a quick and easy intro into things, but beyond just the reading itself. So if your kids do find something, I mean, please have them share, because I'd love to have that resource. In terms of how I'm doing things differently this year, like I said, what you've always done may not always work. That's just as true for me as it is for anybody. So I want you to know that there are a variety of things that I'm trying out this year. Infinite Campus is obviously still a part of things. It is the official grade book. It is the place for your kids to know what their grade is. Zoom is the way that we interact with each other 3 times a week, and depending on what your kids need, sometimes more than that. All of the documents that I provide to them are on Google Docs, so that's an always available, easily and readily available resource for them. And 2 is linked for them through Canvas. So anytime they're looking for something, Canvas is sort of their spot. The other 2 things I'm trying out, there's an extension for Google called Pear Deck, which allows them to interact with things like slideshows and whatnot. it's not ideal, but it's something that I've really found pretty useful with some of my other classes. So I'm trying to use it more. I'm trying to use it more with APUSH to help kids out, just to try a different tool. Edpuzzle is something that I tried earlier in the year, where you can post a video and then pause it, and students have to answer a question about what they've been watching. So that's something that I've also tried out. So I'm going to continue to look for more resources and more ways and new ways to get your kids engaged in learning. And hopefully that works out. Ooh, history geek. So here we go. So if you do not like history, if it is just anathema to you, you can stop, or stick around, because maybe maybe you're intrigued. This is a photograph that we've all seen before. That's a photograph. It's a photograph of a painting that we've all seen before. It's the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and you probably noticed some of the figures that you've seen before. The tall red-haired fellow in the middle is Thomas Jefferson. Benjamin Franklin, maybe you recognize. John Adams, John Hancock, etc. Well, here's the deal. Adams, you can look at his face right there, strongly disliked Jefferson. They were political rivals and got a little personal here and there. And Adams went to the artist that painted this, and said, I want you to keep Jefferson and I really far away from each other. Well, you can see he didn't do that. And he said, well, I've already begun the painting. You guys are right in the center there. I can't really do that. And so Adams implored him, he said, look, please figure out a way to do it. So if you look, what the artist did was he made Adams stepping on Jefferson's toes, and so that he could, like, for all eternity, throw a little bit of shade at Jefferson. So I will show that to your kids, because I think it's important to know that, man, like, we are living in politically divisive times, and that's kind of always been the case. And sometimes it's quite a bit uglier than at other times, but it's always been. So that's something to point to. And then something that I saw last year from a historian about this image in particular was, in talking about the foundation of the country, is the idea that in this image, this historian put a red dot on the face of everyone at the signing of the Declaration who is a slave owner. And I think it speaks to one of the most divisive issues in the history of our country, and shows the pervasiveness of the institution. And a follow-up image to that one are these yellow dots, and these are the men who at some point during their life freed the people that they had held in slavery. And so that's an important message too, the idea that people can realize that something is wrong and right the ship, right? Or try to make amends for that in some way, shape, or form. And one of the great things about teaching juniors in high school is that they are at an age where they are physiologically capable of perceiving nuance and realize that things are not always, binary, right? That there's not always this, like, either or, this cut and dry division, that there can be sort of a spectrum across which people can exist. And hopefully that's one of the things that they'll get to. Because my job as a teacher is not to tell your kids what to think. That's not my position. My job is hopefully to get them to think, right? To think critically, to analyze what they're seeing, reading, listening to, right? So anyway, that's my open house spiel. I appreciate you sticking around for the whole kit and caboodle. If you have any questions or concerns at all, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Again, my email address is blafontaine. I'll pull it back up here for you. Is blafontaine@lths.net. Please let me know if there's something that you need from me, or that your kids need, that they're not getting. Okay. I hope you're doing well, and that you and your families are all healthy and safe. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.